Hey everybody, and welcome to this chat, ramble, whatever it is you want to call it, about the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Now, last night we had our first look at the new PlayStation 5 console. We had a look at the Xbox a few weeks ago now, I think, but I thought I'd wait to do a video until we had both and had a more accurate comparison. First off, let's talk about the design of the PlayStation 5. I think that while the majority of people that I've seen on social media think it looks pretty good, it is without a doubt pretty different, isn't it? Without a doubt, we have not seen the likes of this design before in a console. We've seen it in Wi-Fi routers quite a lot. We've seen it in many other memes that you have probably seen already on the internet. I love the controller. I think the controller looks really nice. I think the PlayStation controller was due a redesign for a while now. I think my opinion was that it didn't really look much different to how the original one looked. I've just got some tea here. Yeah, to how the original PlayStation DualShock controller looked all those years ago. This one, I think, if you compare it to that original DualShock, you've still got everything in the same place, but design-wise, I think it does look pretty good. I'll come back to the controller a bit later because I've got some more stuff to say about that. The design of the console, obviously, pretty striking. We can kind of scroll down and have a look at it on the side. Here, you can see a nice kind of indented PlayStation logo. I like that kind of low-key. The first thing which jumped out, well, not the first thing which jumped out, but the kind of original thing is the disk drive, obviously. So my first thought on when I saw it, because they obviously didn't show the digital edition straight away, my first thought was, wow, that I'm not sure I like that with the disk drive there. I do, however, like the digital edition, as they're calling it, with no disk drive. Again, I'll come back to my thoughts on the two different editions in a bit. We have some kind of blue lighting effect coming from the grille. This whole thing is a fan grille here, so obviously cooling is always an issue. Anybody who has a PlayStation 4, especially the Pro variation, knows that they can often sound like a hairdryer or an aeroplane landing, something like that. So I'm intrigued to know how the cooling's going to work as well. I think the Xbox One X was very good in terms of the sound levels and the cooling, and I would imagine the Series X, which we will look at in a bit, will be pretty good. It seems to have quite a lot of ventilation, but the whole design of the thing is kind of more important than just whether it has ventilation slots. I guess the next biggest thing was that it's predominantly white. Most Sony PlayStation consoles, in fact every Sony PlayStation console since the 2, 3, 4 has come out in black. Xbox had original Xbox was black, 360 I think launched in white, but you could get black variations, and then the Xbox One was black and Xbox Series X is black. I know a lot of people have been kind of critical of black boxes everywhere. It seems everything's a black box, whether it's a DVD player, whether it's a I don't know, a router, whether it's a you know, your set-top box for Sky, your cable or whatever is always black. But there are pretty good reasons why they're black, or why you only generally get them in one colour at launch. Cost, obviously. You know, the more you can produce in bulk in one colour, the cheaper it is to produce. Console manufacturers take a loss on making the console, i.e. it will cost more to make the PlayStation than they sell it for. That doesn't matter how much they sell it for. Well, obviously to a certain point they will take a hit on it. That's the same as the Xbox and the Switch. They lose money on it. They make the money back through subscription services, selling games, etc., etc., peripherals as well. So they obviously want to try and keep costs down to as minimal level as they can, which really means that they only really release in one colour. The Switch, I think, has been the one that has bucked that trend a little bit. Probably, especially the Switch Lite, I would say possibly because it's so much smaller, so they can do that. But yeah, I don't know for certain. One thing I am certain for is that I'm going to click accept on the cookies, so that goes away. So I've just noticed that. But yeah, white is obviously a departure. We haven't had a white PlayStation launch. The original PlayStation was grey, if you remember that. I don't know why they decided to go grey, but they did. And this one they've gone white. Now, as I said, black as well, keeping costs down. Also, it kind of blends in to things. The idea being you want to focus on what's on your screen, not on everything that's going on around it. It's also easier to pair black things with your furniture, other things going on in your room. It will fade into a cabinet easily, you know. I guess maybe PlayStation are wanting to make a statement, and they want their console to be something people notice when they walk in a room. For people to be like, oh, a PlayStation 5. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I'll get on to my thoughts when I talk about the Xbox Series X, about how I like both of them. I will preface this to say that from my position personally, I will get a PlayStation and not get an Xbox. The only reason for that is I have a PC, which is a good PC, and every Xbox exclusive that comes out will come out on PC. PC has the Game Pass. There is literally no point to me buying an Xbox Series X. So I don't have a choice to make, but I can be objective in what I'm doing and think about, if I didn't own a PC, what would I get looking at it now? So I'll kind of look at it from that point of view. But in reality, just to kind of, I guess, clear it up, I will be getting a PlayStation 5, not an Xbox, for that reason. There is, you know, no point in me spending however much money on an Xbox when I can play every game on my PC at better resolution and higher frame rates. Trust me, that my PC is better than an Xbox Series X, so it would be a waste of money. But the PlayStation obviously has games exclusive to it which I wouldn't be able to play, so in that respect the PlayStation would be my console of choice. From a clearly, it's just a logical point of view, I guess. So in terms of its aesthetic, I can't honestly say I am a massive fan of it. It's bold. I'm kind of glad they did something different. As I said, I really like the controller. I really, really like the controller. I think it's very, very good looking. I feel like the black strip up the middle just doesn't work for me. It just, I don't know, it does look very futuristic. I'll give them that. And PlayStation, I think, over the Xbox, has a lot of the time prioritised that kind of futuristic look more than Xbox has. You know, their logo is that kind of almost that futuristic-y Spider-Man font. They've kind of been the ones, I think, more to embrace that futuristic one. Nintendo often goes a bit cutesy. Xbox, I think, tries to go somewhere around kind of futuristic, but also kind of more kind of understated, I think, in a way. I guess Microsoft are PC makers at the end of the day, and PCs are generally boxes. They're generally black boxes, so it does make sense. So yeah, from an aesthetic point of view, I can't honestly say I'm a big fan. I don't like the disc drive one. I will be getting the digital edition for various reasons. I guess the reasons are that, number one, I mostly buy all my games digitally now. I don't like buying second-hand games. The money doesn't go to the developers, so I don't mind spending a bit extra to get a game at a higher price rather than second-hand. I know that's not an option for a lot of people, so I understand that. So mostly I buy digitally. Secondly, I'm just lazy and don't want to go up and change discs. That's probably should have been number one, actually, on there. Yeah. Thirdly, I have decent internet, so it's not that much of an issue. Some people really will be, so totally appreciate that. It's good that they didn't just go for digital only, and not have an option with a disc drive. Thirdly, it's a Blu-ray player, 4K Blu-ray player, which is great, but I just stream films. It's not a problem. I don't see the point in spending 15 quid on a Blu-ray. I'm definitely one of those people who only watches a film once. So yeah, I don't own any films whatsoever. I generally only watch things once. So for me, it makes no sense to get the one with the disc drive. That being said, the price difference will affect it. So there has to, and no prices have been confirmed for either console right now, just to clear that up at the time of me recording this anyway. So there has to be, in my opinion, a difference in price. A Blu-ray, 4K Blu-ray player in itself would cost you £100+ nowadays. I'm not saying there'll be £100 difference, but cost of parts, there has to be a difference, right? That's the only reason why they would release the digital edition, because they can sell it cheaper than the one with the disc drive. What that price is, I guess, makes a difference. If it is a £50 difference or $50 difference, would you just take the bullet and get the one with the disc drive just in case, or would you still go digital? If there's $100 difference, then it's worth it, you know. So it's a difficult one to kind of think about. We also see here in peripherals we've got a headphone set, which it looks nice enough, but I mean, I think the quality of the PlayStation headphones is generally quite good, but I would say that for your money, I think you can get better. The other problem, I think, is that a lot of people probably have more than one console, and I don't know if the PlayStation headphones work on like different consoles. I think the wireless ones don't work on like a PC or something like that. I know that Xbox are very good, that a lot of peripherals will work on it. I guess, again, the PC background, but I know PlayStation can be very fiddly. I have a controller actually that's a PlayStation controller. Just hold that up. And a PC controller. As you can see, it's got like the PlayStation like logo and everything on it, and it's a really, really nice controller. I love it. But it doesn't work on Xbox, so it works on PC and it works on so it works on PC, and it doesn't work on PlayStation unless you put the dongle in, so it won't do wirelessly like a normal PlayStation controller. It's weird. I don't know. Sony are weird about their peripherals. So but I'm sure that will work on the new PlayStation 5, hopefully. But again, I do like that controller. I'm interested to know how it feels, how it looks, and price, again, will be a problem. I mentioned that I wanted to talk about the controller a bit more. I don't know if we have a better picture of it on this website. So, here we go. Yeah, awesome. So, we had the DualSense wireless controller. So usually it was the DualShock, now it's the DualSense. So they're saying it's got haptic feedback. For those of you who don't know what haptic feedback is, you probably had some of it on your phone potentially. If you had a Steam controller, they had haptic feedback. It's that little kind of like vibration you feel, very, very light, when you touch certain places on your screen. You can turn it off and turn it on, I think, on a lot of phones. The Steam controller had it as well on its kind of trackpad Joy-Con thing, and it's quite nice. The thing that worries me about the PlayStation controller is, again, it has a speaker in it. I believe it's still got the trackpad. Let me just I hope this doesn't break anything. We'll put it on silent here. So I believe it's still got the trackpad. So it's got haptic feedback on there, which it shows adaptive triggers, which look cool. USB-C, that's massive. Motion sensor, again, built-in microphone and speaker, and a headphone jack. DualSense wireless controller. So hang on, did I just say the one thing I didn't pick up on there actually was built-in microphone? Okay, that's interesting, isn't it? So you don't necessarily have to have a microphone. The controller has one built in. That's really interesting actually, and that's something I hadn't picked up on from watching it the first time. So yeah, for me, I love the fact that it's USB-C, because USB-C is just so much better than everything else. It's just super, like everything should just be USB-C. Most like Android phones now are USB-C, so charging it will be simple. It's a cheap cable. You know, peripheral cables are super annoying. I don't think PlayStation's ever had a peripheral charging cable, but some other like controllers and things do. The built-in microphone and speaker. The speaker system on the DualShock 4, I think, is a nice little gimmick, but I don't think it ever got used like well. I worry about, like, from a cost point of view of how much it costs versus its use. I don't think a lot of games even use it at all. The ones I can think of that use it, the first one I ever remember was Resogun. I remember GTA, I think, and a couple of others, I think. I've had to turn it off on a few because recording them. I think Death Stranding did as well, with the baby crying, which was just freaky as hell. So I turned that off as well. And then you have the motion trackpad, but they didn't say if that was in there, did they? They didn't say that the normal bit around here, if that was a motion trackpad or not. So I'm really intrigued to know if it is, because again, that was a feature on the DualShock 4 that I just think was not used in any way, shape or form to its potential. So yeah, it's nice to see it's got a nice kind of like rubbery coating here. I think the original DualShock 4 had a terrible problem with the rubber wearing down really quickly. Remember from when I brought it, probably within 2-3 months it completely worn down. So hopefully they do a better job on this one. Buttons, interestingly, not coloured. I don't know if that's just a style point of view, I guess. The D-pad looks okay. Not a massive fan of it. I'd be interested to know what people who use D-pads. I mean, I rarely use them apart from, to inventory select, shall we say, in games. But if you're a platformer or a fighting game enthusiast, you probably use a D-pad a lot more. And you've got the little PlayStation button, which interestingly looks like it's just raised there. rather than having an actual button like it does now. And we've got the bumper buttons and the triggers, so no extra buttons, which I thought was interesting because they obviously released that little peripheral recently which you can hook onto a PlayStation 4 to give you extra buttons, a DualShock 4, sorry, to get extra buttons. And I thought that might have been foreshadowing the fact that they might have put some extra buttons on the back of the controller, but doesn't look like that's the case. So, which I guess makes sense in a way, because backwards compatibility wise, that would be a bit of an issue. People who want to use a DualShock 4 on the PlayStation 5 not having enough buttons unless they spend 20 quid on a peripheral. I don't know. And the other question is, do we need extra buttons? I mean, on my controller, it's got extra buttons on the back, and I don't use them. So I guess if you're a real pro player, then you probably would do, but you would just probably buy your own controller anyway, to be fair. So yeah, cost wise, I think a DualShock 4 at launch was like 50 quid. The most expensive kind of controller I've seen to buy is definitely the Pro controller for the Nintendo. A nice controller, but 60 quid was not worth that much money. A lot of people are buying expensive controllers nowadays. Xbox obviously do their own Elite controller. I wonder if Sony will follow that direction, or whether this will be a pretty pricey one. Like, I would say that this looks pretty expensive to make, with all the features they have in it. So it would be super interesting to know how much that will cost on its own. If it was £60-70, I would not be surprised. Yeah, because I think that's the way things like that are going, and people will pay it. We have a media remote as well. I don't know how much the media remote is really that useful, because at the end of the day you can use the controller and it's wireless, but some people will be using this as a 4K Blu-ray player, and I guess if it's a £20 upgrade or something like that to grab that, then that's going to be worth it for them. I'm not sure how many people will. I think there's a little charge stand it's got with the two of them on there, which I mean, okay, and a camera as well, which is also quite interesting that they're kind of doing that on launch. So that I'm sure they'll probably integrate that with, like, be useful for the VR as well, which we know is coming for this. But for streaming, I think this is going to be a big important thing. Lots and lots of people nowadays are streaming because it's so easy to do. Like recording a YouTube video, it's so easy to do. Loads of people are jumping on the streaming bandwagon, and it's so easy to do and set up. And I guess I know that Microsoft have obviously got their Mixer integration as well. I wonder if PlayStation will try and do something with Twitch on there. We'll see, I guess. But yeah, that's, I guess, the thoughts on the kind of layout. It can go horizontal, so you take it off this little stand thing, I guess, and it goes horizontally. Again, I think horizontally it looks pretty bad. I know from the poll I did on my Twitter to the vast majority on social media, people love the design. I don't like the design of the console personally, but I do love the DualShock look. I think I'm more of a simple person, so the Xbox Series X for me does look better in terms of how it looks overall. But I applaud PlayStation for doing something different on there. We also had a look at PlayStation 5 games. So there was a lot actually they went through. It's got the list here through here. I'll give my kind of thoughts on some of them. So yeah, kind of, well, I guess first up actually weirdly was GTA 5. So I was really confused when that came up. I was like, have they accidentally played a trailer from like 2000 and I don't know, 17 or something, 2016, even before that probably. But they say it's going to be expanded and enhanced. So I first bought GTA 5 for my Xbox 360, then I bought it for my PS4, then I bought it for the PC, although I will say it was on sale and quite cheap. Am I now going to buy it for PlayStation 5? no, I'm not going to. But they did say the online is free for all PlayStation 5 owners, and they also said that PlayStation 4 owners get $1 million per month up until the release, which is actually really big because, bizarrely, I think anyway, Grand Theft Auto 5 still has a massive player base, and I'm confused often by that because I played a fair bit of it in its time, and the heists are incredible. I love them, but I feel like once you've done them once, even twice, you're a bit like, because I understand why people play things like Destiny's raids or MMO raids a lot, because you could get the chance to get rare items. I don't quite understand why people constantly play the heist, other than to get more money, I guess, to buy more stuff, but it doesn't quite, I don't know. Anyway, it is massive, GTA 5. I recently actually downloaded it and logged into it just to be like, I wonder what is going on here, and I was just not impressed at all. So it's cool, I guess. There's a lot of people who play that. It's cool that GTA Online is going to be free. I think that's a no-brainer. They make so much money off the microtransactions that it's a no-brainer for them to do that for free. But then we had Spider-Man, which Spider-Man 2018's Spider-Man, I think is probably my favourite ever PlayStation 4 game. It was incredible. I loved every second of it. I played through all the DLC. It's one of those games where I think I'll go back to at some point as well. If they, I mean, I guess I don't need to, because Spider-Man Miles Morales is coming out. So we all expected a sequel. They've used the word sequel in this article. I don't think it's a sequel. I think it's like a 1.5. So yeah, I think that they're going to save the sequel for a couple of years down the line when they've really got to grips with what the PlayStation 5 can do. I think Spider-Man, without doubt, was one of the best looking games on PlayStation 4. It was incredible. If there's one game I would love to come to PC, it would be Spider-Man, to push it even further. It was so much fun. It was funny. The story was great. It looked incredible. The gameplay was amazing. Just, yeah, it's probably definitely my favourite game on PlayStation 4. So I am super excited for this. I really liked the Miles stuff in Spider-Man. And I love that he is probably going to be a focus here, and possibly even, you know, in what will be Spider-Man 2, I guess. So that's awesome. It does come to something, I think, and it does make me laugh, that the best Spider-Man film I've probably seen is the animated Into the Spider-Verse, and yeah, this is the best Spider-Man game, and it, like, even the Marvel films of Spider-Man, I think, can't touch the game or the animation for that kind of Spider-Man feel. I think it's just awesome. So that for me was like a no-brainer of like, yeah. I mean, I think it's important to note that this will come out on PlayStation 4 as well. They didn't say that, but I'm pretty sure it will. It won't look as good, I'm sure of that. It won't have some of the features, but I'm pretty sure it's a no-brainer that they'll release this on PlayStation 4. If you can run Spider-Man on PlayStation 4, you can run this. I'm really, really, again, sure of that. Gran Turismo 7, yeah, as it says there, it wouldn't be a proper PlayStation game launch without the tease of Gran Turismo. So I think racing games as a whole have a real like, they're, I don't want to say niche, but they certainly have like a collection of fans who love them to bits and play them a lot and adore certain games. I remember playing Gran Turismo back in the PlayStation, I want to say 2 days, yeah, maybe even PlayStation days, can't remember, and it was great because there's so many cars, all the type of stuff. I feel nowadays, personal opinion, is that racing games are just so samey now. Like, there's more tracks, there's more cars, but you're doing the same thing. Forza Horizon did something a bit different, like it, although that it has tried to kind of change the genre a little bit. And I also didn't feel that Gran Turismo looked anything special. Like, I will say that about every game here. None of them for me looked like they couldn't run on the PlayStation 4 Pro. I would say Pro. Yes, probably less frames, but I didn't see anything where I was like, whoa, you know. But to be fair, we're going to get like incremental gains. Like, there's not going to be the generational leap that we saw before, because graphics now are getting to the point where they are ultra realistic. So where do you go from there? Yeah, the only things you go to are things like ray tracing, I guess, which they did mention very briefly. Said with ray tracing, showed, like, they said, well, we'll come to the Ratchet and Clank trailer in a bit, but they said that there was ray tracing in that, but I was looking and I was like, I don't really see any personally, and they didn't show any of it off in there, so I'm like, okay, it must be probably very low ray tracing. We'll get onto that in a bit though. But yeah, they had quite a long trailer of Gran Turismo, and I was a bit like, I'm sure the Gran Turismo fans out there are like, oh, this looks great, but I was just like, not interested. Godfall, we'd already seen a bit of a teaser to this. Doesn't look anything interesting to me, to be honest with you. Sure, it looks fairly pretty, but there was a lot of like the hack and slash games, like the third person hack and slash games, I noticed. This looks like it could be something like a Rise, Fall of Rome or something like that, where it looks really pretty but has very little substance to it. I could be completely wrong though, but that's my opinion on it. If it's a launch game, generally launch games look very pretty and have very little substance to them. Horizon Forbidden West, super excited for this. Horizon Zero Dawn is up there with Spider-Man as one of my favourite games, possibly number 2, but certainly fighting there. It's coming out on PC soon, which excites the hell out of me. Definitely going to get that. Great IP, really unique with what it did. Super excited for this sequel. Again, I'm using the word sequel quite loosely here, because firstly, it hasn't said it's a sequel. I feel like it's like a 1.5. It's going to have upgraded graphics. It's going to have new things. You saw the underwater stuff. It looks beautiful, but Horizon Zero Dawn looks beautiful. So I do feel like it's going to, look great on PlayStation 5 and everything. Aloy back, great character. Love it, love it, love it. So super, super excited about that. They said they're perhaps the only game that looked like a true generational leap from what we've seen previously. I'm not sure about that personally. It did look better, yeah, but it did look better. I wonder if it's going to come out similar time on PC. I don't think so. I think it'll again have a massive launch window on PlayStation and then come to PC, but we'll see. Oddworld Soulstorm, I mean, it's got its fans, Oddworld. I'm not one of them. It looked really pretty, actually. I will say that much. It did look really pretty. Looked much better than a lot of Oddworld games I've seen. I think Oddworld is known for its humour a lot. I didn't see a lot of that in the trailer. In fact, I would say a lot of these games on this list were very serious. Sorry, I've got a real frog in my throat today. And then we had Resident Evil 8, which was pretty cool. I'm not a big Resident Evil fan, but I appreciate the franchise and appreciate 7. I'm not a big horror game fan or a horror film fan, but it looked pretty cool. I will say that much. It looked nice. It seemed like it had a really good kind of vibe to it. I think it could be really big for them. I know Resident Evil fans. I was saying to my girlfriend at the time, like, Resident Evil fans will be go nuts right now. So Yeah, it looked pretty cool. And the drop of Chris Redfield in there, you know, who was a kind of beloved character, I guess, was good for people. So yeah, really, really interesting, I think. Demon Souls. So again, I'm not a massive Dark Souls fan. I really like Bloodborne though. But Demon Souls is obviously the one that kicked it off, and having this kind of remake of it is super cool. It looked stunning though. I will say, in my opinion, anyway, the Dark Souls games do not look the best. This looked stunning, genuinely stunning. I was like, wow. So yeah, I'm really intrigued by it, and I will give it a go, definitely. GTA 5 Enhanced, we've kind of spoken about. Project Athia. This looks really interesting. So Square Enix, as you kind of expect, kind of RPG. Yeah, looked absolutely incredible. Wonderful environments. As it says there, like one to watch. Yeah, I thought that looked really good. Very intrigued to know more. Solar Ash, from the people who made Hyper Light Drifter. I've heard that's a brilliant game. Didn't play it personally. Looked really cool. Again, loved the art style there. Ratchet and Clank, I thought looked incredible. I generally thought that looked good, and I thought that showed off the next generation stuff better than anything. So when they were going through the rifts, the speed of it loading, things like that, just looked really good. And I think it being a kind of fast-paced action kind of game, I think it's really important to have that. So I'm actually super excited. The first Ratchet and Clank game I've got, and it was really good fun. Really good fun, funny, lots of cool weapons to use, and this one looks super cool as well, actually. So I actually think this one looks really good so far. Sackboy, A Big Adventure. So not Little Big Planet 4, but this looked interesting. It seemed like it had up to like 4 players as well, like co-op. I think it could be a bit of it could be a good thing for PlayStation. They've often lacked mascots in a way. People call them mascots, but you know what they are essentially is they're kind of exclusive IPs that really define them. You know, Nintendo have made their company off the back of their exclusive IPs. Sony and Xbox have kind of lacked behind a little bit in that, and I feel like doing something like Sackboy is a real attempt to maybe aim for those Nintendo customers who love that sort of thing. So it could be a big thing. I'm not sure it interests me that much. NBA 2K21, the one thing I would say about this is sweat. A very, very sweaty man. Incredibly sweaty. Like, I don't know if he can get that sweaty. I think he must have just come out of the shower, but I was just like, yeah, it's very sweaty. Destruction All-Stars was definitely a game. When I first started watching the trailer, I was like, ugh, it looks so like cliche. But then I saw the gameplay and I was like, okay, this looks really cool. Like, Destruction Derby is one of my favourite like PlayStation games, original PlayStation, I think. Like, it's just such a fun game. Destruction Derby 2, things like Burnout, a lot of fun, and that combination, I think, of the driving destruction like game coupled with the fact you can get out your car and run around just looked really good fun, actually. So I'm actually super intrigued by this one. Again, I think it looked great. So from an art style point of view, it looked really nice, but from a perspective of the kind of so I like the art, the way it looks, but the actual content of it just looks really cliche and very kind of aimed towards a kind of young teen audience, I think, which put me off a little bit. Next up we have Deathloop from Bethesda. or Arcane Studios, I should say, who are famous for Dishonored, and you can definitely see Dishonored in this game. It looks super cool. This is one of the games I think I'm super excited for. I don't know if it's a we saw E3 2019. I don't know if it's exclusive to PlayStation. I can't think it will be. Maybe from a console point of view, but I think it's got to come out on PC. Seeing that it's a Bethesda Arcane Studio game, like I'm not actually 100% sure, but the general premise of it is that you are kind of stuck in a time loop where every time you die it resets, you get stronger, I guess, you go through. There were two games quite similar to this. Well, sorry, this game and another game were quite similar, and then they did make me think of Edge of Tomorrow, the Tom Cruise film, where I was like, that kind of idea of it, which is a really cool film, by the way. You should watch it. But I think it's called Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah, I think it's called Edge of Tomorrow in the UK. It might be called something different elsewhere. But it's a cool film and a great premise. This kind of like useless soldier who dies and relives the day over and over again, gets stronger and stronger until he actually, can stop the loop. It's kind of a similar thing, but just a really cool kind of 60s, 70s vibe to it. The action looks so like crazy, fast paced. And I really like the kind of protagonists in it, the two assassins kind of facing off. This one looks like a really good game, I think. Really, really interested to know it. So they said in the 70s there. I said 70s when I watched it. My girlfriend was like, oh, it looks more 60s. So I guess I was right. So they said they fend off an assassin coming to take you down who might be controlled by another player. That's cool. That's very interesting. I love the vibe. Very different, but really cool, actually. So very excited about that one. Stray. Do you like robots? Do you like neon lights? Do you like cats? It looks interesting, but I don't know what the premise of it is. So, yeah, Annapurna Interactive make some fantastic like indie games, and it looks cool. Like aesthetically, this kind of like cyberpunk-esque, like Tokyo, awesome. Something's happened to humans. We don't know. Just everyone's a robot. This cat's there with his little backpack on. Looks cool. Definitely one I'll keep an eye out for. But want to see more of what it's about. I'm all up for kind of walking simulators though. So if it is a kind of a walking simulator, I'm there. Goodbye Volcano High. Sure. It looks like one of those kind of narrative games like Life is Strange, something like that. So not saying it's for me, but cool that it's there. Returnal. Now this looks very, very interesting. This was the other one where I said it looks like they've put Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah, Edge of Tomorrow. So like Deathloop, seem to be stuck in this loop, repeating the same day over and over. Made by Housemarque, who made Resogun, which I think is a really cool game, but this looks totally different for them. Looks really interesting, very kind of horror themes. Interesting name, Returnal. I kind of like it in a way. I didn't like it at first, but now I'm kind of liking it. And the planet transforms when you die, so that seems really, really interesting. Very interested to see more of this, definitely, and it looked really good as well. Now we have my favourite game of the announcement, Bugsnax. So I was actually saying, as soon as this popped up a little bit, I said to my girlfriend, who is a massive Animal Crossing fan, I was like, is this like, have they finally, is PlayStation or another console, something could have finally made something to compete with Animal Crossing? I don't know if this is the thing, but I like the way they've said Animal Crossing New Horizons. It's similar to like Animal Crossing New Horizons, because I got that vibe, definitely. Very cutesy, cool kind of characters. I'm a very catchy song, Bugsnax. I'm really interested in this, actually. I would say this was the one that I was like, that looks cool and I want to watch that trailer again. I like it when video games do things differently. I love a good gritty story. I love something to get my teeth into. I'm really looking forward to playing The Last of Us 2. But sometimes you just want something fun and crazy. One of my favourite animated, probably my favourite animated film is Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and I got massive vibes of that from this, so I am all over this. The fact that when they eat something, their arms transform into that fruit is just, I love that bonkers kind of nostalgia. And yeah, it's made by the guys who did Octodad, so that was a kind of crazy game, but super fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Hitman 3 looks like Hitman 2 and Hitman, so if you're a fan of that, I think you'll be loving this. Can't say I've honestly played those games. They've never really appealed to me too much, but I know they do to a lot of people, and it looked really good, I will say that much. Didn't show you a lot, but what it did show you looked good. Ghostwire Tokyo, interesting. Can't say it looks like it's for me, but I know there is a massive market for that. I mean, this will do very well, obviously, like in the East, Japan, etc. But I know there is a big kind of market for this anime kind of style game as well elsewhere. I can't say it's for me, but it looked pretty interesting, and I would definitely watch some videos on it. Jet the Far Shore. So yeah, it looked really interesting. Definitely something to keep an eye on. It's by the Super Brothers, which did Sword and Sorcery, which is a really cool game. Looked very, very interesting. Looked very pretty. So yeah, very interested to see what comes about from that. Kina, Bridge of Spirits, looks super cute. Those little black porgs. It looks really, really cute. My girlfriend, who's not a massive gamer, was like, I'd play that. Yeah, it looked really nice, actually, I think. On there, Little Devil Inside really caught my eye. Looked really good fun. Didn't tell you too much about it, but the trailer definitely got me intrigued. It's this kind of what looks like a kind of hunting game or something Dark Soulsy-esque, but in this kind of, cutesy style. We don't know. There in the trailer it showed like an older character and this younger character. At first I thought maybe the older character was there like butler or something, but then I was like, is it maybe them in the future? Or I don't know, but it looked really interesting. Because there was bits where it looked like you were controlling the older guy going around town and stuff, or I don't know. It looked really interesting. After I played them, I would just kind of write off. It comes preloaded with the console, so cool. You get something there, don't you, for the kids? Kind of looks like the knack of, there. So that kind of, I think that's gone through all the games that they showed. I thought it was a super strong show of games. There are a few in there which for me didn't hit personally, but they will do with a lot of people. Seriously, Reddit, can you go away? Are we going to get any more updates from Reddit? Apparently not. There were some really real good bangers there, I think, where you were like, yeah, this kind of cements the fact. So for me, the only option was to get a PlayStation 5 or not. As I said before, to get an Xbox would be stupid. But if we'll go through the Xbox stuff now, I have to say that game lineup blows Xbox out of the water, 100%. Yeah, it does. Let's talk about the Xbox Series X though. So, and then we'll have a look at the specs of the two at the end. So this is the Xbox Series X. We don't know yet if there's going to be different SKUs. of them. If this is maybe the premium version, there's going to be a slightly lighter version. Controller looks very similar. Obviously there's an extra button, I think, there, just underneath the back and options button there. Looks very, very similar though. I don't think they've said that they're doing anything special with the controller. Let's have a look if they've said anything. There's no haptic feedback, no built-in microphones. Just trying to see. Yeah, nothing like that. But on the plus side, I guess it should keep the price down. Maybe they're more like, well, if you want to have that option, we will include that as an option to for you to buy if you want to buy the Elite controller or something like that, but not necessarily have it as a premium price tag on it or whatever. I really like the design. I will say that. I know people will be like, oh, it looks really boring. I just think it looks classy personally. I like the big grille at the top. If they have like an LED which lights up there, that would be cool. If not, you could probably put your own one in there and it would look pretty cool. I think it looks classy. The controller does not look anywhere near as good as the DualShock, the DualSense. Sorry. So yeah, but I think Microsoft might be going more for people are buying aftermarket controllers. So do we need to make this all whistle and bells? And because the other thing with the PlayStation 5 controller is, I wonder if they make much money off that, or what price point they're going to sell it at. As I said, I think if they sell it at like the £40 mark, which is generally what they generally are now for a PlayStation 4 controller, they're not going to make any money on it. They could even lose money. If they're selling it at £70 and Xbox are selling it at like theirs for like 35-40 quid, there's a big difference there. And what you have to remember as well is, like, you who are watching this video now are probably you're not probably a casual gamer, is what I'm saying. It's probably your main hobby in some ways. You're not just somebody who dips in a couple of hours a week here and there, or Fortnite or whatever, and does like that. You probably play substantial amount of games because you've clicked on a video where we're looking at the two new consoles. A lot of people will not even do this until they come out, or just won't have that much interest, or they'll read an article on the BBC website or something. They won't have a lot of interest in it. The quote unquote casual gamer, the ones, maybe the parents who buy it for their kids, the people who dip in every now and then, price is a big factor, and it's one where I think Xbox could have an advantage over PlayStation. It depends. We don't know prices yet. The only reason I say that is that the Game Pass on Xbox is superb value. I have it on PC, and it is superb value for what you get. You get so many games. PlayStation don't have anything like that. They have PlayStation Plus, which gives you 2 free games a month, and often they're pretty old games. Game Pass is giving you games which as they release, and then some pretty big games, a few months later. So there's a big difference there, and I think Game Pass is super cheap for what you get. So if you're a parent buying it for a younger kid, or you're somebody who's like, I want to have a console, but I don't necessarily want to be spending 50 quid a game, or I don't want to be spending hundreds of pounds, then you might have this option where you go, well, Xbox seems pretty good value. That's really the only point where I can turn around and say the Xbox could have the advantage right now. But I do like the design of it better, I will say that much. You can see down here I think the cooling looks pretty good. So yeah, it goes for the chimney effect, sucks in cold air down the bottom, pushes it through and out through the top. Where I've been watching actually some PC case reviews recently, and what they've been talking about is there are some PC cases now where you can get this chimney effect, and the Cooler Master SL600M, which is a case I'm thinking about getting, has this chimney effect, and it has the best cooling for a GPU of any case you can buy. However, the CPU sitting above it is not good. The advantage this has is the GPU and CPU are one unit. So the problem with the CPU being above the GPU, sorry if I'm boring people here, but the advantage is that the GPU cools because it's getting all that fresh air first, but then the hot air coming off the GPU is rising and hitting the CPU, so it's not getting as good a cooling. But if you don't have that issue, you only have one thing to cool, then you're getting great cooling. So I think, from my point of view, looking at it, I'd be really interested to know what people like Digital Foundry think. Is the cooling looks better on the Series X, and that, don't underestimate how much of a difference that can make to performance. If they can run their chip faster for longer without it thermal throttling, then they will have a massive advantage. So I'm really intrigued to know how that works. I'm very intrigued to know what the cooling is on the PlayStation 5. Obviously they didn't show us any internally. Microsoft here are showing us loads of stuff, loads of interesting stuff going on. I think they do have this green kind of LED in there, so that will be really interesting. From a storage point of view, the Xbox Series X has this expandable storage system. No idea prices of this. Looks like it could be expensive because it's peripherals. I think PlayStation, but they haven't said, will have an option to add an SSD to it, but we'll have to kind of see. I don't know yet. They haven't really specified that, I don't think. And then I guess looking at some of the games which they kind of announced here, you had, I don't know how many of these are necessarily games which are going to be exclusive to Xbox. I think there are a few which are. So it does say here when they're Xbox exclusive. So they showed off like Destiny 2, which is actually pretty cool. So Destiny 2 will carry over to your new consoles, and everything will carry over, which is, I think, really cool, like your characters and everything. I'm really impressed with that. I think that's cool. Fortnite, okay. Moving on. Bright Memory Infinite, Xbox. It's coming to PC too, but probably isn't coming to PS4. Can't even remember what this was. Looks interesting. Dirt 5 looked pretty cool, but again, I wouldn't imagine that's going to be on every console. Scorn is a Series X. That creeped me the hell out. Very HR Gaga aliens. Chorus. It looks like Chorvs, doesn't it? Chorus. Yeah, that looked kind of cool. Did give me Mass Effect vibes. Madden 21, couldn't care less. I'm sure it's important for a lot of people. Same way that the NBA game is important, but whatever. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, that's coming out on everything, so not that interesting. Call of the Sea, sure. It's confirmed on Xbox Game Pass. That's important, I guess. Because again, you know, that's cool. Like the new Streets of Rage game came out on Xbox Game Pass, and I was like, brilliant. The Medium, yeah. Again, it's not an exclusive, right? No, it is an Xbox exclusive. Okay, cool. So they've got their own horror games. Scarlet Nexus, Second Extinction, Yakuza Like a Dragon. You gotta love the Yakuza games. They are awesome. And that's a launch game. We want to play Yakuza game on Series X. You'll be able to from consoles launch. Seems that soon. It is. Like a Dragon technically came out in Japan this January on PS5. I don't get that. It must be PS4. Though, so it's only the Western release time for next gen consoles. Okay. Halo Infinite. Yep. That's a big one for them. Like, this is the only thing I've seen where I'm like, this is an established IP that people love Xbox for. So that could be a massive game for them. Okay, Warframe, yep, Cyberpunk coming out and everything. Gothic. They're remaking Gothic, which is cool. It's a really cool game. But again, it's probably coming out on everything. Siege 6 coming out on everything. Hellblade Senua's is not coming to PS4, I don't think, because Xbox own the studio now. But we'll see. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is coming to everything. Outriders, yeah, sure. Lord of the Rings, Gollum, Gods and Monsters coming out on everything. Battlefield 6 will come out on everything. Rainbow Six Quarantine will come out on everything. Watch Dogs Legions will be out on everything. I'm sure that will be as well. Dying Light 2 will come out on everything if it ever comes out. Suspected Xbox Series X titles: Everwild, Starfield will be. Elder Scrolls 6. What even is this? Grand Theft Auto 6. They put Vice City in the picture. Yeah. Okay. So game wise, it cannot compete with that list of games that we've just seen. Like even the most hardened of Xbox fans, like, could not honestly in a heart of hearts say that it can in any way compete. It can't. So the only thing I think Xbox is going to be able to compete upon is if it can be more powerful in the AAA games that are going to come to every platform, or price. If it's significantly cheaper, if the Game Pass is still there and great, which it should be, then they could steal a march on it. You can't underestimate that. Yeah. We shall see. I think I've got some like specs here to compare the two. So from a completely, I guess, technical point of view, we can kind of have a little bit of a look here. So both are going to, we don't know release dates, but both are going to be, before Christmas this year, obviously. There is backwards compatibility for PlayStation 4 games on the PlayStation 5, and Xbox One will have the same for the Xbox Series X to Xbox One, and also 360 and original Xbox games, which is cool. So that's an option there for people. The CPU, so both of them have 8-core AMD Zen 2s. The PlayStation runs slightly slower than the Series X. However, I believe that there is like a boost setting on the PlayStation 5. How that affects things, we'll see. I wouldn't have thought 0.3 gigahertz is going to change things to a crazy extent. But you never know. The Xbox has 1.7 more teraflops on its GPU. Both have 16 gigabytes GDDR6 RAM, which is really interesting because we've often, I think 16 gigabytes is now the new minimum for RAM for gaming on PC. So it's interesting that these have now got 16 gigabytes as well. The GPU thing interests me as well. It will be so interesting seeing how these line up. If the Xbox looks on paper like it could be a bit more powerful, if the cooling solution is better, it will be super interesting if it runs faster. The PlayStation 4 was faster than the Xbox One. It ran things a lot better, and I think that really hurt the Xbox One. And by the time they released the Series X, which is the most powerful one and is faster than PlayStation 4 Pro, it was too late. If Xbox come out the ground running with a faster machine that is the same price or cheaper, I'm really intrigued to know how that will affect the dynamic. If PlayStation 5 has the games, but Xbox has the power, what percentage of people are buying a console for AAA games, i.e., your Maddens, your FIFA, your Fortnite, your Battlefield, and don't care about the PlayStation 5 exclusives? And what percentage are like, no, I'm going to the one which has the games? I'm really intrigued to know that if that's the case. This might not be the case. It might run the same. PlayStation might be more optimized and run faster. We don't know till we get them side by side. But I think that is the question I'm asking right now is, you who are watching this will probably say, I'll go for the games because, I'm a gamer. but those people out there who only play maybe 2-3 games a year, you know, they play their FIFA religiously, their Maddens, they're going to want the maximum frame rate, looking the best it can. They don't care about your little indie games that are coming or anything like that. They're going to play FIFA for 2,000 hours a year. So what does it matter? So in that case, is the Xbox going to have the advantage there? And if it turns out the Xbox is cheaper as well, who knows? I don't know. I had this inkling that the Xbox is going to be cheaper, but I don't know offhand. The only reason I say that is because the peripherals look cheaper, and it has a more standardized design than the PlayStation does. But I also worry that PlayStation has this want to get complacent on things sometimes. So we saw that with the PlayStation 3. The PlayStation 2 was a huge success, and they got really complacent with the PlayStation 3. Released it for this really high price. It was a flop, let's face it. And they had a lot of work to do with the PlayStation 4 to get it back. They did. They released a great console, probably one of the best has ever been. Will they get complacent and be like, well, listen, everyone loves the PlayStation 4, so they're going to get a PlayStation 5. Look at all these great games. The PlayStation 5 is £600, and everyone's like, fuck. And the Xbox comes in and is like, it's 400 quid. Well, yeah, I can't imagine that happens, but it would be so interesting to know what people would do then. So yes, they are saying there could be a significant difference with the more teraflops there, but optimization shouldn't be underestimated. The thing is as well, it will say here that they run up to 8K, 120 frames per second. No game will ever do that on these consoles. The frames per second thing is interesting as well. I don't know, those games we saw that all looked really good, none of them will run anywhere over 60. You'd be lucky if they run at 60, I think, at 4K. So yeah, I don't know. I guess for people who like Fortnite, that will probably run at a really high frame rate. You know, your other kind of games like that will probably go really well. So we'll see. Lots of interesting stuff to kind of go. They're saying that it should be about $500, which is what I expect. The PS4 launched at $400, while Xbox One launched at $500. So there was a $100 difference. There in the PlayStation 4, it wiped out the Xbox One, didn't it? It really did. It was so much better. If it's the reverse this time, and there's a $100 difference, and the Xbox One actually runs better, if not the same, how do we see that going? Fantastic lineup of games, but when are these coming? A lot of them were 2021. Launch. How many of them are we going to see? I don't know. Has PlayStation got too far ahead that Xbox just cannot catch up unless they do something super drastic? I think Xbox are going to come out with some really good games. They've bought a lot of good studios. I think the thing that hurts them the most, but is also the best thing they've ever done, is the fact that all their games come out on PC, because they can, if you own a PC, there's no point in owning it. If they didn't do that, I would have bought an Xbox Series X right now. But there you go. I guess that's just the way it goes. I think I'm about done, really, comparing the two. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'm always intrigued to know. Until next time, see you soon. Bye-bye.